Good evening. My name is Selena Jaffrey, and I'm the Director of Business and Policy at Asia Society Texas Center. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight's program is part of our COVID-19 New Reality series. The ongoing pandemic has meant more than a public health crisis. It has also resulted in an economic crisis and a crisis of food insecurity. Certain local communities have been severely impacted, and approximately 15% of restaurants have closed permanently in Houston in 2020, leaving hundreds of hospitality workers unemployed and in precarious financial circumstances. Many Houstonians have come forward to help, and among them are some of the local beloved chefs who are heroes for many and have stepped up to meet the needs of the impacted communities. Chef Chris Shepard has helped change the landscape of the Houston culinary scene since opening Underbelly in 2012. He was named one of the 10 best new chefs in America by Food and Wine in 2013 and was awarded the 2014 James Beard Award for Best Chef. In 2017, Chef Shepard opened One Fifth, a 5-year restaurant project that changes concepts every year. His foundation, Southern Smoke, has distributed $6 million to people in need in the food and beverage industry. Chef Chris Williams is chef and owner of Lucille's, a restaurant in the heart of the Museum District. In 2012, inspired by his great-grandmother, Lucille Smith, Chef Williams opened her namesake restaurant, treating diners to a Southern cuisine enhanced by international flavors and techniques. He's the founder of Lucille's 1913, a nonprofit that combines food philanthropy and development to nourish Houston's most vulnerable. Lucille's 1913 has provided more than 100,000 meals to Houstonians in need since the start of the pandemic. Our moderator is Natalie He, a reporter with Fox 26 News. Natalie has covered a number of breaking news and weather stories, including Hurricane Harvey. She currently serves as co-president of the Asian American Journalists Association, Texas chapter. Following the program, we'll be taking some viewer questions, so please share your questions via the YouTube and Facebook comment box. Before we get started, I would like to share that Asia Society is an educational institution promoting cross-cultural understanding for a more inclusive world. Many of Asia Society's programs, like this one, are free. Please consider supporting our work through a tax-deductible gift by texting Asia Society TX to 243725. We hope you enjoy the program.
All right, everyone. Once again, I'm Natalie He. I'm a reporter with Fox 26 Houston, and I am honored to be asked to moderate this webinar tonight with two of my favorite people, maybe within the Houston restaurant industry, two Chris's. So that makes, things a little easier. But I think when we go out with the questions, I might refer to you guys by your last names, because we've got two very great people here, as most of you are probably familiar with their skills in the kitchen, but of course you may also be familiar with the generous work they've been doing in our community. So Selena touched a little bit on this, but we're almost reaching right now 1 year since the coronavirus shutdowns. It began March of last year. We can also remember the rodeo, of course, once again canceled again. It's really hard to believe that this much time has passed by, but virtually every sector of our lives has been drastically altered and impacted, particularly the economy and especially the hospitality industry. About 14 to 16% of restaurants closed permanently in our state, and that number holds true here in the Houston area. So why don't we start with getting to know y'all a little bit better? How has this past year impacted you guys personally? Chris Shepard, why don't we start with you? As they say, with darkness comes light. And you recently also had some wonderful personal news to share, right? You married the love of your life. So why don't we start with some good news here, Chris?
I did, yeah. I decided on Christmas Day, I gave my fiance a wedding ring. It just happened to be mine, and said, we're going to New Orleans tomorrow and we're going to get married. And we did it real quietly. And there was 6 people there. You know, a good friend of ours that owns a restaurant, Pesh, in New Orleans. He was our officiant. You know, just keep it small and quaint. But, you know, that has been definitely the highlight of the year. You know, how many of y'all remember back when they said 2 weeks, we'll close it down for 2 weeks. And look where we're at now. And I think that you started to see people really change the way that they look at business and the way that they do things. And when you know, and that's the best part of that. But when you talk about 14 to 16% of restaurants have closed, that's a big number. It may sound like 14 or 16%. There's a lot of restaurants. And so, you know, I just sat through 3 hours of financial meetings today, and it was like, hey, we're still open. So like, that was a conversation that was going through a lot of our heads today. So over this past year, you've seen the fight and the struggle and how folks in the hospitality industry will make it work.
Okay. Chris Williams, you have spent a lot of time donating thousands of meals, helping struggling restaurant workers get back on their feet. I mean, the work that you've done and the tremendous hours that you spent on it is so honorable and it's so respectful. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, first, congratulations, Chris. I did that wedding very quietly.
You snuck on.
We didn't even tell our parents. I gave her the ring and I was like, hey, let's call our families.
All right. I think that's the first person I met who's gotten eloped in their 40s. So congratulations. Yeah, this year, I mean, it's obviously been an extraordinary year, but it was, you know, it's a strange way to put it, but it was also a year of opportunity. I think it was a year where, you know, the culture that we built over at Lucille's was really able to showcase itself. And, you know, we have a team that's been with us, you know, the average tenure of any of our employees is 4 years. And so this was just, so it's family, you know, it's not just simple employee, you know, employer-employee relationship. And the way that we were able to come together and do the work that we've done to this point and continue to do is because it started off with a commitment to our family, our work family, to keep everybody whole, to keep everybody safe, and to keep their families, their at-home families, comfortable and fed. And so it just, everything was born out of that. And I guess the biggest lesson for me out of the year is that investment in the community, if you invest in the community can't help but to reciprocate and invest back in you. So that being said, this year, that's 2020 that started off, you know, in January and February, we were on pace to have our best year, like our breakthrough year after 8 years of, you know, being on the hamster wheel and fighting a good fight and trying to figure it out, and then to have it all come crashing down just a month later. But we figured it out together as a family, as a work family, and not only did we survive, we thrived and were able to help, you know, hundreds of people and employ. We even, you know, we went from 45 staff members to now I think we're close to 70. We were able to employ a bunch of the people in the communities that we're serving now, introduce them into the culinary world. And it's just, you know, it's full of gratitude.
Wow. So you know, my next question was actually going to be about staffing. A lot of hospitality workers were laid off. They lost their jobs early on. It seems like you actually expanded your work staff here. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So when the pandemic and the shutdown first started, I was in New York with my oldest brother, and I watched New York go dark. Saw the last show on Broadway. Then I was in New Orleans, saw Bourbon Street go dark, and knew we just had a few days. And so I came back to Houston the day before the shutdown and spoke to my team and made the commitment to them that, listen, not only will you have a job, but we're going to keep your average salary. We're going to find the average of your salary. We're going to find a way to keep you whole. So when you put it out there, you have to figure out a way to make it happen. And so proud to say we were able to keep 99% of our team on. I mean, we only lost really one person, but I was looking for an excuse to get rid of that person. So came in, and so
Oh my gosh. I wonder if they're listening. They're like, this is why.
You know now.
yeah, well, they.
Oh my gosh. Chris Shepard, what about you? How did your staffing change over the last year?
I mean, we've had ups and downs, but it was one of those things that when when we got back, we did a dinner in Switzerland and then came back and saw it really kind of coming through, what was happening. We did the same thing. We had a manager meeting with everybody, and everybody made a commitment. And then, the next day I was like, look, I'm paying all y'all. We furloughed everybody, but made sure that they had insurance and what we could do. And we started bringing people back as fast as possible. And then, that first round of PPP, I made that decision that I'm paying everybody. Look, I mean, I'm not going to try and make it work. No, we're get everybody back here. We'll figure it out. When they got to 10 weeks and they said, you know what, you got 24 weeks now. I was like, I just hit 10 weeks. I spent it all. I gave it to my staff. That's where we're supposed to go. Let's go. So, we lost some people just decided, you know what, it's going to change. It's time to change industry. At that time we had 225 employees, and, we didn't lose many for sure, but we did lose some just that found something else to do. It was I don't see the restaurant business as a sustainable thing, but our core group of people, they didn't miss a beat. They stood with us, and they're still standing there with us. And, I've got staff that's been with me. My Bush has been with me 22 years. And, you know what? we'll do anything together.
Right,
and that's
right.
how we feel is our staff we'll do it all together.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of these answers also, hearing from you and speaking to a lot of other restaurant owners and business owners over the last year, it really seems like the answer varies, right? Depending on the size of your restaurant, how long you've been in the business, and maybe how kind of grandfathered in you are into Houston's culture. I think both of you, I think it's no doubt that you're two of Houston's most notorious chefs. Everyone loves going to your places, they're staples. But would these answers be different if we were talking about someone new and upcoming who's trying to make a name for themselves? Is it harder for those people to kind of sustain and retain that kind of customer base?
Yeah, I think it is. I definitely think it is. I think you got to start a little bit younger, and the longer you're in there, the more people will stand by you. But I think that every situation is completely different, and I think that maybe both of us have the resources and the thought process to think, hey, let's go this way now. Let's do this. Let's figure out this. And I don't know, when you're young, when go back to Catalan days, I don't know how I would have done it. And it's having a good support crew around you. And if you can keep that around you, you do all right. Because you're nothing without your team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for an upstart business, if you don't have a lot of house money in the bank to fall back on, it's all about establishing those relationships. And, in a year like this, you really have to have some serious startup capital, because the only reason that we were able to stay afloat is that we've established ourselves as a really big supporter of the community. People knew where their dollars were going to go. For a new business, you have to build that audience, and you have to try to attract people away from relationships they've already established with somebody else. So that just makes it a lot tougher. But that being said, it doesn't make it impossible.
No.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest lesson is just if somebody was, for the people that did do it, you just got to be prepared to take that profitability out of the equation and make that first, your first opening months period of what time you're opening up, just to invest in the community so they know who you are, what you stand for, so they can get behind you. It makes it a lot easier that way.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. And I guess the money question that everyone's wondering is, will the hospitality industry ever get back to where it was before the pandemic? Who wants to go first?
I absolutely do. We are creatures of wanting to be together. We want to go out. We want to do these things. We're very social beings. And my hope that you can look back 100 years, right? 100 years ago, we did the same thing with the influenza, and then we got the roaring 20s. I feel that that's where it's going to be at this point too. We're going to have that roaring 20s again. Let's not go down towards the end of it, but but I think that people will, when the all clear happens, there's going to be a lot of people that want to get out. I think it's going to take some time, but I think that the restaurant community, I know, like myself and Chris both, we're looking at new ventures. We're doing new things. We're not waiting, right? We know it's going to happen. You have to have that faith in it. And if not, we'll figure that out. But right now, you can see it coming to, hopefully a safe end at some point. But if we stopped looking at new ventures and new business models and new things, we would have we're behind the curve. So,
yeah, I definitely believe it's going to come back. Actually, if you think about it, and I'm sure Chris will agree, is that throughout the shutdown, even during the shutdown, I was surprised by the overwhelming support that was out there by Houstonians. And it's not unique to just Houston, but that's what my experience is, to where people were coming out to really support, these curbside programs and really blessing the servers with significant tips, because there's just, that's part of our culture in Houston. We're all about restaurants. And I was really proud of us to see how we came out in droves to support us responsibly. And then you could see it when they started to open back up. People were so excited to get back in the restaurants. I think they're a little bit too excited, which is why we had to shut things down and all that kind of stuff. The excitement was overwhelming to where it led to another breakout, then we had to shut things back down. And, so I think with responsible management of this reopening, I have no doubt that restaurants are going to be back to where they were, and then probably do even better, because now people really appreciate what restaurants are. You don't really appreciate something until it's taken away from you. So it's taken away. And now people are just in love with their restaurants and these local relationships they've built. And that's why the ones that are fortunate enough to be around are doing well.
Okay.
And we've learned how to run it on shoestrings now.
Yeah.
How much of the industry or the way your restaurants are modeled do you think could really change post-pandemic? One of the things we talked about wait staff, how much of the staffing is going to change? Do we have perhaps less focus on the actual hospitality aspect of it? So much of things now are contactless, minimizing human to human interaction for the sake of the virus. Eventually we will be over that, but is that going to kind of change the scope of how we look at, wait staff and sort of the extra culture that comes with it? It's a very sort of American thing to go in a restaurant. It's all part of the service, especially at, these kind of higher end restaurants. Chris, you're nodding your head. Chris Shepard, you're nodding your head.
Oh, Chris, no, hammer down. Listen, I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, as far as we're concerned, we're doubling down. Because like I said, with this being taken away, you really appreciate the experience. And I've seen a couple of models where they try to remove the server interaction from the restaurant experience, and it's cold. It's cold, and that's not what restaurants are about. The big thing is having that interaction with the server, having them guide you through the experience. That's an integral part to the restaurant experience, especially in Houston when it's so competitive. Your service is what sets you apart from other restaurants. You can have mediocre food across the board. I'm not saying that anybody here does that, because they're speaking to Chris Shepard. So that's not, the case over there, but the exceptional service is what really sets restaurants apart. And so I think that the pandemic won't change the way we handle service, at least not us. Where we're digging into hospitality. And another thing that's born out of it is when you have, given that now I think we're at 50% occupancy indoors,
yeah.
What this is giving us the opportunity to do is to really cultivate and fine tune our service model, because you have so fewer people coming through the door. So that gives you an opportunity to really dig in and really establish some good relationships with your guests. So if anything, it's just gotten deeper and better, and this will continue on as we move forward.
Interesting.
Yeah. The QR codes, they're good for some things, but it's not good for a dining experience, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, at the beginning of this, when we first started doing service, it was we told our staff, stick and move, don't spend too much time. go talk, and then go. And it was like, now you start to see it that, it's not more relaxed. It's just like you figured it out. But your wait staff has learned how to speak more with your eyes and be engaged with the guest and at the table, because the smile has been taken away, right? And that's always with service, is the service with a smile, right? Now you got to figure out how to manage that expectation through other aspects, right? Through just like a conversation, a quick, blah, blah, blah. And then so it's, I don't think it's going to change. I think it gets better. Okay. Just like Chris said, when you're at 50%, you have more time to look at it and more time to focus on it.
Yeah. And I will say, the QR codes, I always forget every single time I go out. I forget that it's all QR code now, and I miss it. I think a lot of people do too. It's like, can I have a menu? Oh wait, I got to scan this little code on my camera. And it's just such a habit, to ask for the menu and to want to hold. And also kind of just seeing the design of each individual restaurant's menu, right? That's part of the appeal too of dining in at a place.
We work really hard on those things. So
yeah,
as like restaurant folks, we work really hard on how good does your wine list look? What's the feel? What's the touch? And so I'm ready to get back to that.
Right. Chris Shepard, I know you have built these sort of turf patios. Outdoor dining has become much more popular. A lot of places that didn't previously have a patio now have some sort of fall patio that's been built in. A lot of places are looking for that. I mean, is that going to be something that we see in the future as well?
I mean, as long as they let me, I'm going to do it. I just, at 1/5, I just did it. I was standing there watching curbside pickup, and I was like, man, I guess we don't really need all these parking spaces. I'm going to get some 2x4s and some cinder blocks, and I'm going to go steal the tables from Blacksmith, and I'm going to put them out here, and we'll pop up some tents. And everybody's like, no, don't do that. No. And so I talked to Lexus and some other folks, and they we'll help you do it. And I was like, sweet, let's go. And even now, you see around the country, like Amex has got those, what are they called? Yurts?
Yeah.
Yurt? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, I if they'll let me keep popping patios up, I'll do it. I mean, it sucks in August, September, July and August. It's like there's like one person out there sweating through their cocktail, so it's but right now it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. So
yeah. All right. Chris Williams, anything you want to add?
And Chris has got a beautiful patio.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you.
Just a beautiful patio.
Yeah, and it never had any traction until the pandemic hit.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I mean, it really only served for spillover for brunch, but as soon as when the shutdown hit, I was speaking with Chef Kang, my partner and executive chef and owner. And we started, he was like, we need to get misting fans. So we invested a good amount of money in misting fans because we knew whenever we did open up, we didn't want guests inside the building for their safety and for the safety of our staff, because that was paramount, right? And so now we have these misters out there, which is very like Arizona, Phoenix kind of style with the lime misters, and the way the patio is built, it kind of like keeps the temperature. It has a separate temperature. And I tell you, what's really interesting to see is to see Houstonians adapt, because there's only a couple of months when we're down for patio weather, right? But this year, people are like, patios are premiums. Like, you remember how sanitizer was everything and then masks were everything. Now patios are everything. So every concept that we have moving forward with the new launches that we're doing, and of course with Lucille's right now, it's patio forward, because this pandemic hopefully will end sooner than later, but the hangover from it's going to be this is going to be a thing. And if people I love outdoor dining. I don't want to eat eggs outside. I guess I shouldn't say that, since brunch is a huge part of my business, but I personally don't want to eat eggs outside, but people do. And it's just, why not? You know what I mean? Why not?
I love that you pick eggs. Just like, that's the one thing. I don't want to eat eggs
brunch.
Outside.
It's all part of the brunch, right?
I can't eat eggs outside. It's something about breathing in while you're chewing the egg. It just changes the flavor for me.
That's so funny. I've never thought of that.
That's hilarious. I don't want to eat soup outside. I love it.
Everyone's particular about, I'll eat anything outside, I guess.
Yeah, well.
You guys are picky. Now we know. Well, thanks for sharing about that. I think we could go on and on about all the ways this industry is going to change, but I think without a doubt, it's clear that the impacts of the pandemic are going to be long lasting. We may have changes that we don't even see right now. We don't even recognize is going to change. But so much of this discussion this year has been on COVID relief, help from the government, help from, on the federal, state, local level, and helping those that have been hit the hardest, whether it's a business owner or just your ordinary Joe who lost your job. When we transitioned from one administration to the other, it came with a new set of eyes, a new set of policy introductions, and of course, a lot of new pushback as well. So I wanted to kind of switch this over into a little bit of current event chat here. I am a news reporter. But Joe Biden and his administration, President Joe Biden, they've been adamant about introducing new COVID stimulus packages. Right now, about $1.9 trillion in aid is being discussed. And one of his proposals is to double the minimum wage, which is currently at $7.25, which it has been at for, I think, about over 10 years now, up to $15 an hour. The idea, of course, being that workers who make minimum wage should get paid more. But the debate is causing quite a rift between both parties and, of course, among small business owners. What are your thoughts, and how would this impact your business models potentially, and what are sort of the trickle down effects that we could see? Chris Shepard?
Yeah. I am all for livable wages. I think, everybody needs to do better, right? I think we just all need to understand how that works, though, and to know that if we're doing that, and it's been done across the country, it's going to put a massive effect on small businesses, especially restaurants and retail, even down to grocery stores and a lot of industries. So with that, you're going to see a massive increase of cost and pricing across the board. Just like you would go to the store and get your bag of apples for $1, but now that's going to be $2. And as long as we all are on the understanding of that's how that's going to work, yeah, let's go. But it doesn't. It's just going to cause a little riff of inflation, and that, I mean, that's the nature of it. But we have to look at it as, like, Chris and I talked about it just a few minutes ago. How does that look now? Because now you're going to be getting rid of tipped employees too, for the most part, and so you're going to have a massive workforce that is used to making this going to this, and another smaller amount of people that are used to making this going to this. So there has to be some knowledge of how this is going to work. And if this is passed, we're 4 or 5 years out, but I think it gives us time to work for it and to learn how to, make that part of our business. But if it were to happen overnight, it would be devastating to a lot of real small businesses out there. But today Senate passed, the Restaurants Act, working with the Independent Restaurant Coalition. So at least that fund has been started too. That's another $25 billion that's specifically set for restaurants, independently small-owned restaurants. It wasn't, the $125 billion that the IRC was asking for, but it's a start, and that opens the gates to be able to put money and funds into that. So that's, it's really good. That part is really good.
Okay.
There's the other, we all need to think about how that works. So I'm all for it. Just let's make a plan.
Okay. Chris Williams, want to chime in?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear about the $25 billion. The $9 trillion. I would need all of that before they make that transition to the $15 minimum wage, because that's going to hurt everybody. That would change the models, and the transition period going from minimum wage right now and then the tip server model to that is going to be really difficult, and a lot of people are going to suffer in that transition because, unfortunately, not everybody in this business is on the good side of things, and so they're going to find a way to try to manipulate it and still maximize their profits while cutting out everybody that makes that, makes this thing work. So significant change. So if we want to do the 15, I just hope the package is comprehensive enough to where they give the small businesses the backup capital that they'll need to be able to sustain a transition like that. Because if that's not a part of the plan, then I don't really see how it's going to be sustainable for small business.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm keeping track of the time here. We're about halfway through our questions. So we're doing great on time, actually. But I do want to kind of shift it over. We've already gotten through that. I told you I'd keep it going. So we've got another probably 20 minutes of questions here. And we're getting some questions pouring in. So for those of you sending questions in, thank you for that. We're going to get to that in just a bit. But I want to run through first. Let's shift over now to talking about both of your fantastic nonprofits. Both of you spearhead these organizations that have made significant charitable donations during this time, helping both your fellow hospitality workers and, of course, those in underserved communities. So why don't we start, Chris Williams, why don't you chat a little bit more about Lucille's 1913? Let's keep it to a brief description and then some of the work that you've been doing.
I think you may want to define brief for me because I get a little long-winded.
You can list out your whole resume. No, let's hear more about it. I mean, a bit of the background of it and some of the work, particularly those generous donations, those food donations you've been making.
Sure. So 1913 named it after my great grandmother, because again, that's when she started her business for the exact same reasons that we're starting the nonprofit. Is there we saw a definitive need in the community, and we found a way to assist with that need through food. So it started off with a partnership with World Central Kitchen, and they came in for 2 weeks and provided funding and wanted me to feed this community in Sunnyside, about 127 residents, all elderly, all poor, subsidized living, all African American. And so I saw the food they were getting, and I thought there's an opportunity because these are my elders. I know these people.
I told y'all that would happen.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. Maddox.
That's fine.
My dog's name is Maddox. Come here. I'm sorry. Continue.
But yes, we saw the need, and we started feeding the people. I created a menu for 30 days that spoke directly to their life experiences and their palates and focused on nutrition. And so we started feeding them. And then when the cameras left, the money ran out from World Central Kitchen. I couldn't just turn my back on these people that I developed relationships with and say, hey, good luck, guys, because these people have been cut off from their families due to the risk that the pandemic has posed, because, the elderly have been cut off, literally cut off from their families. So philanthropy is addictive. So it went from 127 residents of that community to at our peak 100, what am I talking about? 1,800 meals a day we were doing. And these meals were deliberately curated for these people that we were feeding. And then what that turned into was us building gardens behind our kitchen, so then we could have the freshest of the fresh ingredients to serve to our elders, because these people changed the world for us once before. And then actually with the vote, they did it again, because they were the ones that were specifically in line to go with that vote and ballot thing. So we did that, and then we started hiring from these communities that we were serving. So we started to cultivate this idea of a complete community, to where not only are we teaching them are we feeding them fish, we're teaching them how to fish. So having a long-term impact. From that, it's turned into this ecosystem, It's turned into this ecosystem now, where I'm so proud to say that we're this far away from securing about 10 acres of land in the small town of Fort Bend that poverty is that's 397 residents, 15,000 medium income, no jobs, no fresh food for 15 miles. So we're going to take 10% of their population, pay them a premium. We can't do the $15 an hour that's being proposed in the Senate right now, but we can definitely do $12 an hour. Pay them $12 an hour and have them work and cultivate the land that will then feed their neighbors. And then what we're going to do with that is we're going to take that back into production, hire another 15 people out in the kitchen that we're partnering up with Attack Poverty in Richmond and Rosenberg, hire another 15 people. And now those people will then take those ingredients and prepare food for their neighbors. So they'll be feeding the people from Kendleton, the people from Richmond, and the people from Rosenberg. We're also working on fermentation labs. So what we're trying to do is combat food insecurity, employment, training, and food waste. And food waste, as we all know, is the number 3 contributor to global warming, which makes, well, I won't mention that, but yeah, so that's, we have this holistic approach that we're taking with the nonprofit, which is, maybe as soon as a month and a half away from coming to fruition, to where we, everybody is learning, they're getting paid to learn, and they're getting paid to sustain their own communities. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And to date, we've donated just a little bit over 165,000 meals to people in need throughout Houston and Fort Bend County.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, that's really like a full circle of of work that you've been doing. That's a lot of accomplishments in really less than a year.
Yeah, in like 8 months.
Incredible.
9 months.
working a lot then. I am also interested to hear, your restaurant located deep in the heart of the 3rd Ward, I guess. Is it considered 3rd Ward, 5th Ward?
Historically, 3rd Ward, gentrified sides now referred to as the Museum District. Yeah,
Okay.
same place.
Okay. You're, surrounded, it's where a lot of these other Black-owned businesses are central or centrally located. How much has that increased over the summer, as we all saw here in Houston, a Houston native, a sort of civil rights movement following George Floyd's death, right? There was sort of a increased calls to support Black-owned businesses after that. How much of that helped bring new customers and extra attention to come to your restaurant and boost your business?
I mean, well, it was significant because it's like it was an awakening and a call to action. Because I mean, I think what it really was, as far as we've always been a very diverse restaurant, and we were proud of that. And we really didn't tap into enough of these African-American dollars, to be honest. And I think what happened with the George Floyd movement and everything that's happened in this year is just a perfect storm to where the African-American community specifically woke up to the power, their socioeconomic power, because the Black community in the country has more dollars than Canada as a whole. And so now they've taken ownership of Black-owned business, and deliberately now are putting their dollars back into it, which is everything, which is what every other culture in the country, new, old, whatever, like that's how you establish your voice. If you want to be heard, you have to, you grab the mic with the power of your dollars. And so that's what the African American community has woken up to. And so it's been substantial. It's been beautiful to see.
And we also had our current president come by and visit your restaurant this summer, right? When he was in town for George Floyd's funeral, actually.
Are you referring to Uncle Joe?
Yes, I am. He came by there, right? I mean, I remember because there was like an actual, like stalking mission going on, trying to figure out where Joe Biden was going to go eat. And we had a theory that it would be your restaurant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea, but yeah, that was quite the honor. Like that was a huge honor, especially given that moment when the world was awake and paying attention. To have that historic meeting in our place was everything, and also very sobering as well, because George Floyd was a movement, not a family man, not a father, not a son, not an uncle. It was just some kind of abstract concept. But we were honored to host the Bidens and the Floyd family and have them have that historic meeting, and then feed them and nourish them, and then watch them drink my bar dry. It was beautiful.
We didn't even know that. That's the kind of secrets you got to spill, like at the beginning of the Q&A.
That's how effective that meeting was, because it went in there like a sober mood of mourning, and by the end of it, it was celebratory. It was great to see that transformation happen and be a part of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Chris Shepard, Southern Smoke Foundation. we've done tons of work with you. Love what you're doing. You offer direct financial assistance to workers. And also I remember this story in particular that we worked on, mental health resources following the death of Anthony Bourdain a few years ago now. But, talk a bit about the need for this, how much has it grown, and, what sort of maybe specific assistance aside from that do you offer?
Well, Southern Smoke was originally, we started that as a fundraising effort to bring awareness and cash to the MS Society. One of my friends was diagnosed with MS and asked me if we could throw a dinner, and I said, no, we're going to throw a party. And it turned out to be a much bigger party. And, the first year we did this little festival out back and were able to write a check to the MS Society after we cleared everything for $181,000. And then year two, more people, 280. Then year three, Hurricane Harvey came through in August, and we were set to go in October. And I made the decision that I talked to all of our crew, and I was like, hey, we got to change, and Lindsay's sitting there with me, and she's like, yep, we got to do this. And so we made the effort to kind of move away from the MS Society that year and we figured out a way to folks in our industry in that time of crisis could put an application in, and if there was a certain list of requirements that we had to go through, but we took in a little over 200 applications, and we were able to grant 139 families a little over $500,000, and it made me realize that we needed to stick with that. We could go break some money off to the MS Society, but we also needed to take care of our industry. And it kind of became a 24-hour day, 7-day a week call, if you will. And we just kept doing our festival every year and doing little fundraisers here and there. And then when COVID came through, people started calling, like, how do we help? How do we help? How do we help? And so it's been a whirlwind, a lot of people. But since March, we've been able to help. I go back to that 200 applications. We went from a local organization to a national organization overnight, and we're well over 34,000 applications at this point. We've been able to grant 2,400 families over $4.5 million since March, and that's all through the efforts and from folks like the people that are on this call. They're just like, hey, let me put a little, $100 into the Southern Smoke till. It's been able to work. And, as of in June, it's something that we've been working on 2 years, right? When we talked, we've been working on this for 2 years, but in June, we were able to work with Mental Health America and the University of Houston to provide free mental health care for everybody in the hospitality industry in the state of Texas and their children. So because we need to, understand it, talk about it, let's deal with it and get on with it, and then, July came around and we had somebody reach out to us from Chicago and say, hey, we want to take care of our city. And so we started a fund. It's an anonymous donor. I still don't know to the day who it is, but they wrote us a check for $4 million for Cook County, the city of Chicago, for bar, restaurant, and coffee shop employees. So we now have a Southern Smoke Chicago, where we've been able to hire people and caseworkers and contract workers up there to take care of a lot of things. So we've been able to offer a lot of jobs and keep a lot of people, keep them going. We need to make sure that our industry, we live on a lot of folks live on a day-to-day basis. And we need to know that if you stub your toe a little bit, that you have a safety net. And so we've always just wanted to be there for them.
Celebrity chef David Chang also recently made a big splash and donated $1 million to Southern Smoke.
Hey, one who wants to be a millionaire. First celebrity to ever do that.
Yeah.
20 years.
Stuff.
That guy just went at it. And we found out September, I believe, that he was going to be on the show because they asked for a bank account. It's funny because Lindsay told me, she said, Dave's going to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I was like, am I a lifeline? And he's like, no, they want our bank account. He's choosing Southern Smoke. So to know, we didn't know until the end. And
glad you're at the lifeline.
Huh? Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't a lifeguard. I'd have been out at like $1,000.
Is that Lindsay in the back? That's funny.
Yeah. She just looked up. She's like,
I gotta chime in on this.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad I wasn't the lifeline. I'm glad we were the recipients of it. But, every day we'll keep fighting. Every day we need to take on more and more, and then we'll get there together. And it was funny because I'm sitting at 1/5 one night, and I was looking at Poison Girl across the street, right? And this is before you could open up bars or turn them into restaurants or whatever. And just seeing, I was like, man, we got to do something for our bartenders around the city. We got to make sure they're whole. And someone sent me a message showing me what Chris is doing over at Lucille's and these little industry pop-ups, bars coming in and doing it. And I'll tell you what, that was, I went over, we heard some story, his story and what he's doing. And man, hey, Chris, I just want to know, you still inspire me to be a better human being. So I appreciate everything that you're doing for this city. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I like, if you don't mind talking about that for just a moment, because I think you really, not only were you taking care of your foundation, but you went full circle to take care of the industry as well. So
the open bar series.
Yeah, no, that means a lot, Chef. I really appreciate that. And yeah, your work's amazing. I knew that what you were doing was big. I didn't know it was that big. And if you could somehow find the information for that anonymous donor, I
wish I knew. I sure wish I knew. Hey, can you come down here a little bit?
But yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. So we know that bars opened up. They were, all the bartenders, these amazing bartenders that we have throughout the city or Texas, period, got off unemployment, excited to go back to work, only had the carpet pulled from underneath them 3 weeks later. We talked about my patio. I also have this huge bar out there that's just been an extension of a server station because we're not really known for our cocktails. You know what I mean? It's more like music and food, all that stuff. So I had the idea of letting bartenders, and especially since we were doing everything outside, what if we let different bar teams from around the city come take over our patio bar, and we'll give them 100% of their sales minus the cost of products and taxes and merchant services. So when I first had the idea, nobody wanted to do it. The people that I talked to were like, okay, well, yeah, it's nice, but, why don't you just keep the money? And I'm like, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. And so I finally got somebody who wanted to participate in the program. The first one, and it was Marcus Davis, the owner of Breakfast Club, Then Culture, and Alley Cat. And he put me in touch with the Alley Cat bar team. So they came out. We did a little bit of social media about it. And the turnout was a little bit too good. It's just this little bit, it's like, because the pandemic's not over. I know we're all outside. That's great. But it was great. But it was a great qualifier. It was a great legitimizing event. And then after that, we were able to do 16 more weeks of it. Well, the entire time that the bars were shut down. And it turned into this amazing program to where we were able to get sponsors. Highway Vodka was a huge sponsor. Texas' first hemp-based vodka, and I don't have any bias to it, even though it's my brother's product. And I don't really get hangovers or anything like that. But outside, we had some great partnerships to go along with it, and we had bar teams from here to Galveston come and participate, and it was just like this showcase of just our talent, of their talent. And the energy that came out of it. And Chef came invited to check it out, and to Chef Chris Shepard's credit, and this is a testament to him. I was at the gym one day, and I get a call, and he's like, "What's up, Chris?" This is Chris. I'm like, "Shepard?" I'm like, "Yeah. Hey, I just want to tell you real quick. I love what you're doing with this bar pop-up program, and we want to participate. So just wanted to let you know that we're interested. We think it's a great thing, and wanted to get your blessing." And I was like, "Holy shit, man! Well, yeah, this is great. Like, if you do it, then then other people will get behind it." So he did it and put all his weight behind it, and we were able to. I know, and then we also had B&B Butchers participate with it. And I know from Lucille's alone, by the end of the 16-week program, we were able to put over $44,000 directly into out-of-work bartenders' pockets.
That's awesome. Look at that.
Yeah, so we had
great numbers, big numbers.
As a matter of fact, it's going on tonight. We brought it back because due to the shutdowns, we brought in my favorite bar. Last week we did Ready Room, which is my favorite bar in the city.
Oh yeah, they're good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're insane.
Mm-hmm.
So they did last week, and tonight we have a couple of Lucille's alum over there working. That's David Daiquiri and Erica Moda, who are doing the program. So we're back to doing it right now. And,
a good program.
Yeah. All right. So, if the audience is listening to this, you can go check out some of these new open bar series bringing back. I do want to shift over to some Q&A. We got a lot of questions that came in, and I'm going to start picking and choosing them. Okay. This is an interesting one. We haven't really talked about this or touched base on this yet. This is from Paul. He says, how can we address negative perceptions against Houston's Chinatown eating establishments because of COVID?
It just goes back to support. You know? That's what it is. It's us going down there. It's everybody going down there and just supporting it and really putting a good face into it. And it's such a beautiful, thriving community, and it just needs the help, just like everybody else. But I remember going on the news right before we were shut down and having a conversation on Fox, actually, about this and the negative connotation, the negative, drive towards Chinatown. It's like, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, we're all going to be in this boat pretty soon. So like, we need to support each other. But right now, it's those dollars really matter. They do. Those little Instagram photos really matter. I hate to say it like that, but your social media is a very powerful tool. And if you're down there, take a photo of it. People love that. Let them see where you're going.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. It does.
That's a good point. And I think that, I don't really know how you combat ignorance. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous. It's a restaurant, and or it's Chinatown. I mean, is anybody exempt from this pandemic? Like, not that I know of. It's just silly. So, I mean, I agree with what Chef just said about, if you're there, take some pictures and let the who, I don't even know what to call them, but let them know that you're there, and and set the tone for them. And also, that's a conversation I just wouldn't even humor, because if if they want to bring that up, I think you just need to walk away, get in your car, and go to Chinatown and go get something. I mean, they just gave you a good reminder of where to go eat.
It's one of those. Come on, really? Like,
I got some great food over there, by the way, in Chinatown.
Amazing food.
Yeah, very authentic too. I'm Malaysian, by the way. I love the Malaysian restaurants over there.
Yeah.
Banana leaf. It's my go-to.
Which one?
Banana leaf.
Yeah.
Giving them my 5 stars on Yelp, whatever you want.
It's delicious there. I love that restaurant too.
Okay, next question. This is from, I'm going to butcher this name. I'm so sorry. Pranav, Pranav. Given the food security challenges many people have been facing throughout the pandemic, is there a need to rethink how we approach accessibility to food?
Yeah, I mean, so that's exactly what we're trying to do at 1913. I don't know if I mentioned this, but we're setting up marketplaces next to our farms just to address that. And so I'm still a line from Attack Poverty, which is one of our partners in Fort Bend. We're, the same approach that we have with Lucille and our commitment to keep our staff on. We're not trying to give a handout. We're trying to give a hand up. So what we're doing is we're offering these farm fresh ingredients, and we're partnering with different ranchers to bring in fresh proteins as well at minimal cost, and hopefully less than cost. We're still trying to work out the price structure on this, but that's the whole point, is to bring access to these people where they are, and alleviate that the need and kill the shame too at the same time. Like, let them be a part of producing this food, and then allow them to make it accessible to where they can actually purchase it, because it's not cheap to eat fresh.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And very similar question from another audience member, actually, just says, from Jeff, can the chefs elaborate on their experience over the last 11 months in regards to the supply chain disruptions? Any chance this experience has encouraged more focus, as we talked about, on preparing meals based on what local farmers have available, and then adapting your menu options accordingly?
Something we've always done anyway. That's, I think, the two on this call, it's something that we've always looked to do. Take care of your community first, and they'll take care of you all the way through. I knew that, even like some of the farms that we use, when beef became scarce, right? And like, you couldn't, you go stand in line at the grocery store and pay like $22 for a pound of ground beef or whatever it was. Like, we didn't have that problem because we've been committed to them from day one. And so I think when you have that kind of commitment, it pays in the long run. So, I think that for us, we've always really worked well with our local, suppliers. I mean, Underbelly back in the day didn't, if it was from outside of 150 miles, it didn't matter, So I changed it. I couldn't like, knowing full well that I was using coconut milk that wasn't like there. Like I have to change. It was giving me panic, So I think it's going to change the way a lot of people think. And I think that's for the good, because when you can put more money back into your own economy, into your own city, into your own surroundings, like Chris is talking about the farm, I want to buy from the farm. Mm-hmm. I want to help support that community. So I think that's where we have to be at.
Yeah.
This question is from Kim. And going back, we talked a bit about how in the beginning, they shut down a lot of different businesses. A lot of the models went to takeout and delivery. What are your opinions from Kim? What are your opinions about the waste that is generated from takeout and delivery? Are you considering more eco-friendly packaging? And also, how about the straws?
Well, that's a legit question. I was actually speaking with my director of development about that as well, and it's hard to find solutions. We were able to find some for 1913, but with that find, you have to then reevaluate the way that you cook, the way that you plate, and all that kind of stuff, because the recyclable stuff is not sturdy. So that means you have to change up your whole meal approach. But the impact that we're making, the footprint that we're leaving, 165,000 mils, if we hadn't switched over to recycle, that's 165,000 wasted containers out in some landfill or something like that. So it's not an easy transition. It's not cheap, but we are trying to do it. And to be honest, hopefully, we just got to wait on innovation to come and catch up with this. All this stuff, it's expensive to get over that. And our margins are already tightened, what Chef was just talking about, and the question that the last gentleman had, or let's go with person, because we're not sure. So with the last human's question, there's been a lot of changes that we've had to make and adjustments we had to make, and costs at the bottom line of all these things. So I know we're definitely working towards it. We just need more
It's hard, because to add on to Chris's thing, like, if I charged you for disposables, like, would you mind that? Because we literally in our financial meeting today talked about disposables, like, and to-go packaging and how expensive that is. And the straws, I think, is something that is such a big thing that it's just super hard. Like, the straws that we have, okay, now we're going to change it. Now all these straws that came out, they don't really work. They dissolve. And then now we're into a fact, like, if I don't give you a straw, I don't want to give you a straw anyway, right? I don't think you should, like, we already do, we stir your drink. I don't need to put another straw in it, right? Just get over that. But now we finally have gotten to a point where technology has caught up with us a little bit and been able to give us a compostable straw that actually works, but it's at a cost, right? So again, we go back to that. I still want to pay $10 for something. Now I'm going to charge you $11 because now I need to cover that to make it more efficient, until technology catches up with us to be able to give us those things at a better price, right? At a better cost for us. Like, I'm all for it. I would love it. I would love to have that stuff. And we're going to do everything that we possibly can. Like, but I still use the little cardboard things. And you know what? I got to put silverware in the little to-go package to give it to you. And I get people like, why are you giving me silverware? I don't know where you're going. I don't know if you're eating this in your car. Like, if I didn't give it to you and you're going to eat it in your car, I'm going to hear about that too. So just don't get mad at me for that. Save it.
Right. We're going to have to keep thinking about these solutions, new innovations as we go along. The industry is going to keep on evolving. It's 1 minute left in this. I'm going to wrap up. So I want to just give a huge shout out once again. Thank you guys to both Chris's, Chris Shepard, Chris Williams, especially for your thorough answers, very honest answers. Thanks once again for joining us. For the audience members who maybe have additional questions, I'm sure that both of them are pretty active on social media. You can shoot any other questions their way. And thank you guys once again for all your help and the work that you've been doing. What is this?
Look at that guy. What is that? Look at that handsome fellow right there.
Look at that beauty shot. What is this? What are we looking at?
Plate magazine. Lindsay just kind of slung it over to me. That's a pretty shot of Chris Williams right there.
Wow.
Maybe you guys can pick up a copy. I hope to the viewers, it's unfortunate that we can't actually see you guys virtually in this room too. It would have been nice to see how many little dots kind of came up and the ones who sent in the questions. Thank you once again. Chris and Chris, thank you so much once again. Your hard work, your dedication to the community, it's not gone unnoticed. We thank you so much, and we couldn't do it without you here in Houston. And just a quick reminder before we wrap up here, I want to give another shout out. Thank you for the Asia Society Center for hosting us here tonight, for offering all these programs. A reminder that the Asia Society Texas Center offers over 150 public programs each year, from arts, culture, education, business, policy, and current events. Many of these programs are free, by the way, and they're made possible by the strong financial support of members and friends. So we hope that you'll consider adding your support tonight by texting Asia Society TX to 243-725 to donate. Once again, that's 243-725 to donate. Thank you for your consideration. And if you have any other questions, you want to learn more, you can go to the Asia Society website. All right, guys. Great time. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. It was really fun moderating this.
Thank you, Natalie, for doing it.
Of course.
Yeah, I really appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your answers. This was fun.
It's fun to be able to talk to y'all. I love talking to Chris, and so it's just like a perfect little conversation.
Good stuff. We could go on and on about this, huh?
Pretty much.